Hello and welcome back to Attacking Third. We have a special interview and we're joined today by Executive Director of the NWSLPA, Meghann Burke. Meghann Burke is joining us following some recent updates around Angel City defender Savy King. Savy King, unfortunately, experienced a very serious medical emergency at a Friday's game against the Utah Royals. And in the days leading up into match week 9, there have been multiple updates. Savy King is on the mend, and there have been some recent statements regarding next steps between the league and by the players union as well. Meghann Burke, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sandra, thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you.
Thanks for being here. There's a number of things I, of course, would love to ask you, and we'll get into those things. But I think first and foremost is probably of amongst all of these updates and statuses, probably the most important one is that there is an update on Savy King.
We are so enormously grateful that she's recovering, that she has a very extremely positive prognosis, I think was what she and her family announced yesterday. We are rooting for her every step of the way. I know all of you are, all the fans, supporters of the NWSL, and we're enormously grateful for all the support and also for the the exceedingly competent and high level of care that she received on the field. This is, we hope this never happens again. But the folks who responded were clearly well prepared and rendered exactly the care Savy needed to maximize her chances for a full recovery. And so we're very grateful to the medical staff and the EMTs and all the people on the field who were so calm and professional in making sure she got what she needed in that moment.
100%. On Tuesday, there was this update from Family Club. They released a statement thanking so many for their support. They also shared that Savy has gone under a successful surgery to address a heart abnormality, and that she's going to continue to be on the mend. There was a lot of thank yous that were issued to Angel City, specifically the medical team and all of the support that the family has been receiving from all of these different corners and pockets of women's soccer as a whole. And in the day sort of following that Friday match, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it sort of seems like this wider discussion around this particular event did boil down to these two things. Number one, first and foremost, the health and wellness of Savy King. And number two, was what happened after that the game continued, and what we saw in the reaction to that from players, both current and former, even on this show, and our analysts kind of questioning the ruling to sort of go ahead and continue play on the pitch. We do know that the final minutes of that game did play out. It was roughly around 10 to 15 or so. Angel City walked away with the victory, but what came out of that game was not about so much the goal scorers and the tactics and the X's and O's. It was this instance that occurred on the pitch and the fact that the game continued. And it sort of feels like in the days leading up to that, maybe there's been a wait and see approach in terms of how to make sure, the dialogue around this is addressed. And I was wondering if you would be able to share some of this timeline, how the union has gotten to this point where they are now, because the union has also released a statement after Savy King's update.
So it's important to point out there are two separate questions, right? Did Savy get what she needed in the moment? Was the care that was rendered to her competent, and was it appropriate? The answer is unequivocally yes. This is exactly what we expect to see across the league when there's a medical emergency. This was a model for how it should go down. I think they were on the field in under a minute, maybe it was 40 seconds, and immediately got to her. And certainly, I think anyone who's ever experienced any kind of cardiac situation, time is of the essence. And so we're very grateful for that. So did they get that right? Yes. Then the second question is, should the game have continued? The answer is no. They got that wrong. In the days that followed, certainly I will tell you, we have an internal process for checking in with our people and, consulting with our board of player representatives and our executive committee. We don't take positions just at a whim. We take positions on behalf of the collective. through a process that we work internally. And so we wanted to, in the heat of the moment, sometimes it's important not to rush to judgment and take our time, which we did. I would have expected that if the league recognized this was the wrong decision, because that's a decision that gets made in the moment. You don't have time, when a play is stopped after 75 minutes of play, to go and research other analogous scenarios and look at protocols. And, you got to make the decision then. And we feel this was the wrong decision. With the benefit of 5 days after that, we would have thought perhaps there'd be a reconsideration of that decision. And we were not satisfied that if this were to happen again, the right decision would be made the next time. We've got 4 games tomorrow night. That's over half of the people I represent, and games throughout the rest of the weekend. Professional sports does not slow down for a deliberate process. It keeps spinning. This, to me, feels like a very easy decision. This is one of those events that you hope never happens again. We are not talking about a gnarly broken leg. We're not talking about a head-to-head collision. We're not even talking about a bench clearing. We are talking about life-saving measures. And if and when that ever happens, God forbid, on the field, the humane decision is to stop play. It's no longer about soccer anymore. And the people I represent should not have been put in that position.
I think it's important to sort of note that part of your answer there, being put in that position, right? It's so much of it is in the moment, and the moment in itself is very high stakes. And I can't imagine the sort of emotions and adrenalines, the highs and lows of that, that a person or a professional athlete is putting their own body through at that moment to try to not only process what is happening, but then ultimately be told that they have to finish a game. And so I do wonder the next steps in regards to all of this, because there was a series of statements, and then we had another wave of statements that included one from club and family. And then it brought us to Wednesday, where there were some dual statements from the PA, kind of reemphasizing your messaging here, and the league as well, which I thought part of there was an interesting portion of their statement in that they were admitting that first of all, they also believe that safety is paramount to the league, that the seriousness of the incident requires a process, and that process of deliberation is underway, and that'll include necessary revisions. And so I guess the other side of that question for me to you is, what are those next steps with the league, especially from the players' union side of things?
Well, first of all, if player safety is of paramount importance, then I'm wondering what other factors could possibly be at play in a life-saving situation here. We're making it too hard. This is a very straightforward decision. Life-saving measures on the field to revive a player or stabilize a player or coach or referee, the game should stop play. It's pretty straightforward. And this is the reason that the players are asking for a bright line rule that we hope never gets implicated, by the way. This is, God willing, going to be a very, very rare, if ever it happens, circumstance. So we are asking for a bright line rule. We think that would be consistent with what we're hearing, honestly, across the industry. When you look at the Damar Hamlin situation, which was a different health situation, to be clear, a different medical situation. But even the NFL, which is probably the biggest moneymaker in all of pro sports, stopped a game because it was the right thing to do. We're human beings, and this is a simple matter of humanity. We are looking for decisiveness. The decision should have been made Friday night. In the days that followed, there was an opportunity to make a decision. We're still hand-wringing about what's the right call, and for us, this is very clear and very simple. Happy to answer questions you might have about the analogous situations, as we've certainly looked at them, but what I can tell you is that across the board, even in games that resumed later on, particularly if you ask the Danish national team, should that Euro game have continued on, the answer is no. So, just because others have made a different decision doesn't mean we can't make the right decision here.
Yeah, it's important to note that in those next steps, maybe some of those things are, even like you said, you don't want that to be utilized. You don't ever want to find that scenario present itself again. But essentially, it's about maybe being as proactive as you can be in light of any potential situations like this. Meghann Burke, I appreciate you so much for joining us on Attacking Third. I do wish it was under different circumstances. I know we've had you on here a number of times, and we've been so honored to celebrate such historic moments alongside the Players Union, whether it's been in different iterations of the CBA. And hopefully moving forward, there will continue to be more proactive solutions that continue to protect players and workers in this league. I thank you so much for joining us, and hope the next time we chat is going to be for more progressive things for the players in the league.
Me too. Well, Sandra, thanks for having me on, and thank you for continuing to lift up Savy King. We appreciate it.